Have you ever been in an exam, tried to remember something and couldn't? Memory is a tricky thing. Let's talk about one highly effective way to commit facts to memory: flashcards. Welcome to the Field Guide to Study. Most students have crammed, so you know the difference between temporary memories and robust memories. The goal, wherever possible in study, is to ensure temporary memories become robust. They become long-term. The key error made with study and memory is to think of memories as binary, that you either remember or forget with no middle ground. It doesn't work that way. Memories are constructed, you build them, and if you want them to stick, you must reinforce them over and over. You reinforce them by employing a stimulus that makes you try to recall them. This is called active retrieval. When you're asked a question, your brain seeks out memories that can help answer it. The process of attempting to address a question builds structure in your memory. In other words, you don't actually need to answer a question for it to be effective. How can you do this? One of the most widely used tools to force questioning and active retrieval is the flashcard. A flashcard is simple. On one side, a question, on the other, the answer. When you look at the question, your brain starts doing active retrieval. You try to answer it first, then look at the back of the card to check. Was your answer correct? If it was, the memory is reinforced. Great. Was your answer wrong? Well, now you've introduced the correct answer. Also great. Couldn't remember anything at all? Guess what? That's also good because the act of trying to retrieve information is also beneficial. We know from research that flashcards work. They make you remember better and faster, but also help build understanding. Building flashcards from scratch is an excellent way to learn, as the act of making them is a good form of study. Let's start with a simple example. After your lecture, consider what topics were covered. Pick a fact from the lecture. For example, Brisbane is the capital of Queensland. On one side of your flashcard, write the question, what is the capital city of Queensland? On the other side, the answer, Brisbane. This is a basic factual question and it might seem overly simplistic, but learning is a combination of facts, concepts, and application. Flashcards build the foundation, and the stronger the foundation, the better the learning. Variety in flashcards is good. Text works, but how about flashcards that have images? Try converting study materials you've been provided. Take handouts that you've got from your lectures and do close deletions. Blank out a word or phrase or part of an image, that's the question, and then you try to remember what's missing, that's the answer. Alternatively, you could acquire flashcards from elsewhere. In many disciplines, there will be pre-existing decks of flashcards. They're often commercial decks, you have to buy them, but sometimes you'll find a fellow student has built a bespoke deck that focuses on the content of the course you are taking. Crowdsourcing cards is also an excellent group study technique. Get together with other students, make cards individually, and contribute to a shared flashcard deck. Flashcards work best if you do them regularly over time. The good thing is you don't actually have to do that many or for any serious length of time, just so long as you do it over time. The goal then is to start a flashcard habit. Daily if you can, if not a regular time. 5 minutes a day over a whole semester adds up. Long-term habits work best if you set regular times, regular places, and a regular activity. Flashcards often work well as a start of the day or end of the day activity. Think of every time you sit down to do flashcards as a session, an uninterrupted series of cards. There's a few things you can do to make the process more effective. Don't worry too much about the answers. Don't focus on what you're getting wrong. Don't immediately try to fill the gaps. You don't want to interrupt the flow of the session. If you want to track what you're getting wrong, try writing it down to come back to later, or use an app. The goal is to put aside wrong cards and revisit them later. Avoid repeating cards in a session. Remember, the benefit comes from the attempt, not getting it right. When you start a session, keep going. If you do the Pomodoro technique, a flashcard session works well as a single Pomodoro. Flashcards should really be mixed in with other kinds of factual studies, such as watching lectures or reading. Like a lot of study, it's often best to test yourself first before you engage with information. In other words, Do flashcards and then follow up with some factual study. Remember, making flashcards is good, but using them is the real key. You want it to be as easy as possible. Consider using an app. Anki is an example of a flashcard system that incorporates another key pillar of study, spaced repetition. With an app, you simply whip out a device and start doing cards. You'll be going in seconds. The key to flashcards is doing flashcards. You need to set up a system where you'll use them no matter what. Remember the rule, you should spend more time doing them than making them. The goal is active retrieval. Force yourself into the state of trying to remember. When you do flashcards, the time is never wasted. Either you're adding memories or you're strengthening them. Both are useful. If you're studying something that requires a lot of memorization, flashcards are the way to go. But if you want to think better, faster, and more efficiently in general, you can't go wrong with doing flashcards. They seem simple, and that's because they are, and they work.